You've been transported into a world where every conflict is solved by playing a game, and cheating is legal as long as you don't get caught. What are you gonna do? The world you know just vanished, and you're stuck in a game world with characters who think they are real. You're gonna have to snitch on a cheat, fight against an angel, and bet all of humanity's lives on a single game, all while holding your baby sister as your only ally. Today I'm gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the real-life games and no game, no life. So we start with Sora and Shiro here, and they're geniuses. Two socially isolated siblings who spend every waking hour gaming. Together they go by the name Blank, an undefeated username known across the entire internet. And here's the insane part, they've never lost a game, ever. But their peaceful life of victory is about to end, because the real world isn't a game they want to play. They're poor, isolated, and consider life a crappy game. They then receive an anonymous chess challenge. Shiro starts the game because she's, well, a freaking prodigy with figures and calculation games. But when Sora sees how their opponent moves, he realizes it's a bad matchup for Shiro. So he joins the game. Together they play against their anonymous friend, but when they beat it, they're asked a simple question. What do you think of your world? Sora answers that it is boring, and they wish they were born in a world with game rules. But as soon as he answers the question, Mr. Anonymous on the other end gets excited and suddenly pops up like a dangerous 3D ad from out of their screen, before stretching out his hand and promising them to allow them to be reborn in a game world. And next, everything starts glitching, and they break through the fourth dimensional wall into a strange space. I'm not gonna lie, this all looks really impressive, but also kinda bad. They just compromised their identity. Let me explain. The idea behind Blank is that no one's ever meant to know them. The world thinks that Blank is a secret league of cheating players who somehow manage to win every game. Instead of keeping that ruse up, from the time Mr. Anonymous invites them to play his game, he very likely already had the information that no one in theory should possess. He knows who they are, and this means their identity is already at risk. And seeing as they only have themselves in the whole world, they should have done a little bit more to keep themselves safe. Sora accepting the game despite knowing that they were at risk shows he's a rookie, but it's understandable. They're gamers, and every true gamer knows better than to turn down a challenge. And that's why what they should have done was to backtrace the signal coming from the IP address of Mr. Anonymous. Shouldn't be that hard. They're both geniuses who can figure out how to win any game situation. If they just reframed their mindset a little bit and said, let's make it a game. Can we hack our opponent? They would have figured out how to do it. They're geniuses, first of all, and second, Blank never loses. So to do this, Blank is gonna have to act fast. Although their opponent sent them a link to the game, they should return the favor by rerouting the game to a different game link. They can come up with any excuse for why they need to switch the links, but in reality, what they would do is embed a keylogger attack into the new link. A keylogger attack gives the hacker access to sensitive info by letting them see every key typed on the hacked system. And with this information, they can figure out where their opponent is coming from and decide early on, do we even want to play? And if they do we want to keep playing with the opponent after they win the game? They fall from the sky, but midair, this strange kid named Tet gives them the rules of his world. It's a world where violence is banned and everything is decided through games. He gives them 10 pledges. Think of them like the rules that run the world they're entering. If they want to beat the world, they're going to need to understand the loopholes in these rules. And there's a lot, but 3 stand out the most. 1. All conflicts are resolved through games. 2. Each player must wager something of equal value. And 3. Cheating is allowed, only if you don't get caught. Sora and Shiro fall to the ground, and no, Tet doesn't give them a parachute or magic wings or anything. They just fall flat, and when they stand up, Tet has disappeared. The siblings now land in a human kingdom, and things look bad. Humanity has no magic, no power, and no territory. They've lost every major game against stronger races. Now, if we're in this world, first move is to never challenge a stronger race until you've mastered how the system is exploited. But the siblings, screw that idea. They're not gonna survive, they're gonna rule. But things are more dire than they imagined, because the human kingdom just lost their last king, and as his final wish, he decided that his successor was going to be chosen by gambling. Yeah, no cutesy speech, no royal trading, no politics, though I guess this could qualify as politics. Just some good old gambling. At first, everyone thought the king was mad, but you'll soon find out how just smart this guy was. Anyway, Sora and Shiro step inside and find these two cuties vying for the throne, Steph and Karami. As soon as he glances around, Sora realizes that Karami's cheating, but he doesn't expose it, and instead he simply baits Steph by informing her that she's being conned. Although she gets the info from Sora, Stephanie has no way of proving that her opponent is cheating, so she loses the game. And instead of accepting her loss, she takes her anger out on Sora by throwing a tantrum, because he didn't reveal how her opponent was cheating. So to settle the squabble, Sora proposes a game of rock, paper, scissors, and Stephanie thinks it's her chance to get back at him, so Stephanie does a lot of complex rock, paper, scissors math in her head. But just as she's about to play her hand, she noticed Sora grinning and realizing he's trying to bait her. So she acts fast and changes her hand to rock, but as you expect, his smirk was the real bluff. He pulls out rock and Stephanie realizes that she's lost. Okay, Steph, look. Honestly, she just proved that Kurami's win was legit. She should not have lost to Sora. Here's what we would do. First off, don't play. Think about it. Random dude walks into a heated atmosphere of your greatest humbling ever, and in a split second he figures out you're being conned. Even manages to figure out how the con man is doing the trick. That's something that Stephanie could not figure out despite having the entire game to think. And knowing her opponent was cheating, she couldn't figure it out. So think about it this way. If someone's so dang good that he can figure it out like that, maybe don't try to play a game with him. And that's not all. Stephanie could have won the game if she was just a smidge more confident. From her math, she had a 1/3% chance of winning if she played paper, and a 2/3% chance of winning if she played scissors. But this is a game of mentality, deception. You're not just thinking for yourself. Gambling is a game of probabilities and odds, but that doesn't happen when they're entirely left to chance. In games of pure chance, each instance can lead to a completely independent outcome, meaning that each hand you play has the same probability as each of the others in leading you to a defined outcome. But in this game, Sora led her away, made the probability more predictable by baiting her. He told he would only play paper. This throws the calculation off by a bit, but Steph could have used it to her advantage. There's a thing called the law of large numbers, which basically means that the fact that ratios predicted by probability statements are increasingly accurate as the number of events increases, but the absolute number of outcomes of a particular thing that departs from expectation with increasing frequency as the number of repetitions increases. So, since Steph already got the mental game of numbers right, all that was left was to make the choice. What she didn't consider was that she was not the only one seeing those numbers. If she can see them, Sora can see them. The person who figured out how she was being conned probably can see it too. That means he would predict that she would do very likely what she was planning to do in the beginning. That's why in reality, all she needed to do was to go for a probability that wasn't a safe bet. If she could have just firmed up her mind a little bit and choose the less safe option, she would have won the game. And that's what we would have done. Sora then goes on to give some advice to our girl on how she could have avoided losing, and when he's done, she admits she was wrong and decides to help him find a place to stay. And that's when he breaks the bombshell on her. He never admitted that what he wanted was for her to find a place for him. Stephanie then realizes that she's been double conned, and Sora's eyes brighten, and Steph knows that whatever he asks her to do, it's not gonna be pretty. Ignoring their obvious need for accommodation, he commands Stephanie to fall in love with him. I mean, hey, you can't blame a young guy for trying. Shiro scolds him for not asking for a more logical wish, but they were just kidding around. As for Stephanie, she's already caught in the brilliance of, well, Sora. She can only think of him as a hot specimen of the male species. So he falls on her and fondles her a bit, and while Shiro takes pictures of this, because they're about that life, Stephanie then throws Sora off of her and he lands in a separate room and the doors shut behind them. And that's when we learned that despite their high IQ, we find out our siblings can't stay away far from each other, and if not, they get social anxiety and start to like pee their pants. After reuniting, they head down to Steph's house and she gives them the breakdown of their world, and things are really bad for humans. I'm talking like doomsday kind of bad, for real, no jokes. The human kingdom is about to disappear and the throne is empty, and the race around them, elves, werebeasts, sirens, all have magic and have been beating down on humans in rigged games for decades. The current frontrunner to become queen is Kurami Zell, a quiet, mysterious girl who's gonna honestly blow everybody's minds. When Sora, Shiro, and Steph run into Kurami in the palace, things have taken the final turn for the worse. She's on her way to be crowned king. However, she pauses and taunts Steph before continuing, and that gets Sora thinking. Despite his looks, he doesn't like bullies, so he decides to do something about it. He's gonna become king instead. So they do the unthinkable. They walk into the throne room, crash the royal candidate selection, and call Kurami out in front of the nobility. It's a dangerous move. Most dangerous one they've made so far. If they lose, they're done. But Kurami accepts the challenge. She believes that her magic advantage makes her invincible. She doesn't realize she just entered a battlefield where magic does not matter. Because Sora and Shiro don't play fair. They play perfect. And if she's going to cheat, they're gonna find out and break her. Sora exposes that Kurami has been working with an elf, accusing her of selling out humankind to the elves. Kurami plays it cool, and she swiftly denies wrongdoing, and even accuses Sora and Shiro of working with the elves to make her look like the villain. Then Kurami invokes Disboard law. She gets the right as the challenge to choose the game. Although she takes a few days to decide on the game, she finally settles on where she can make use of her cheat code without getting any chance of getting caught ever. Chess. However, the chess has a twisted undertow. All the pieces on the board are magically self-aware, but Shiro and Sora don't know that. On their way to the game venue, Kurami admits that she is working with the elves, but she paints the logical reason why. However, Sora isn't buying it, and it's not just because he feels that she would lose. It's because he thinks they are underestimating humanity. Inside with Shiro as the more logical one of the genius duo, her brother lets her play the game of chess. But after seeing the first few moves, he realizes it's not a game that his sissy can play. And that's why the master of wit and words, steps up to save the day. When none of the magical pieces respond to Shiro's commands because they're afraid of death, Sora throws away all chess logic and rallies the troops like a real king in a war zone. He promises them the one thing that almost every soldier craves: a whole lot of booty for the rest of their lives, as long as they win. The next few minutes are filled with a whole lot of testosterone on steroids overboard mode, because all the chess pieces are flexing their muscle on screen and defying all logic. In Sora's spicy words, work like pure magic. So much so that even Kurami is shocked. When she tries to protest, our boy points out that he's aware she's been using elf magic to reinforce her players all this time, and the gig is up. But Kurami refuses to go down without a fight. She pulls out the last move from her bag of tricks, and she commands her king to move into the battlefield. But as soon as he enters, he activates a new wave of magic, and everyone gets caught in it and gets brainwashed into fighting for Kurami's pieces. And this time, Sora realizes he's really screwed. He knows Kurami is cheating, but he can't officially prove it. She swoops in for the kill by commanding her queen to kill Sora's king. But Sora doesn't take it sitting down. Instead, he takes it on her knees. Literally, our boy jumps into the battlefield and smooth talks the opposing queen into switching loyalties. And for a moment, they look like they're at a stalemate, but Sora's not done cooking yet. He sees his chance when Kurami commands one of her knights to kill the newly converted queen, because all the pieces have wills of their own. And the knight, though, refuses to kill the queen, and that's all that Sora needed. He stokes the flames of revolt and makes the queen take the field again. But this time, she's fighting in overdrive, and because of her charisma, almost all of Kurami's pieces defect to Sora's. Meanwhile, Steph can see Sora through the eyes of her grandfather. He's just the perfect piece her grandfather had been waiting for. A king who can win without fighting. Kurami isn't having any of it, and she commands her soldiers to kill the defecting pieces. As soon as she says the command, our boy gets ready for his victory dance. Instead of executing the command, the soldiers revolt against her, and one of them assassinates the king, bringing the match to an end. After the match, Kurami tries to figure out which country is backing Sora and Shiro. She doesn't believe a human can beat elf magic unaided. She's like, this is not possible! However, Sora points out the flaw in her thinking. They've limited the potential of humanity because they believe the weak can't win against the strong. With the match over, they head down to the coronation center, but the officiating guy says he can only crown one person queen, and this makes Sora and Shiro play over 11,000 matches to decide which one of them should be king. And after playing for over 3 freaking days straight, they realize that the 10 commandments given by Ted don't include that only one person can be king. So they both get coronated. So it's like, what the frick? But that's just the beginning, because Steph shows up with all the administrative work of the kingdom, which had been abandoned for years. So this sucks because all our guys want to do is just settle down and play games and do nothing. But they use their big genius brains and solve all the problems in less than 2 hours. And Stephanie is like stunned. She is impressed, and she thinks she might actually be falling for Sora. Next, Sora gives a passionate speech to all of his kingdom about how they need to get wiser because that's the only way they can fight against the stronger races in the gameverse, and something called a race piece appears as soon as he finishes his speech with it, and Sora does what no one expects. He declares war on everybody else! Steph is like, holy frick. She freaks out, she goes bonkers, and he explains to her that because no race knows that he isn't being assisted by any race, they won't call his bluff by actually trying to attack them. Meaning that for the next few months, they can enjoy a season of peace, but peace is costly. A few weeks later, Steph is already fed up with Blank. She storms into the room, confronts them for being the most useless king and queen ever, because turning out after the great speech, they just left all the work to Steph and spent their days playing games. Or at least that's what Steph thought they were doing. She challenges him to blackjack, and she even preps a cheat to force him to become a decent person. But surprise, surprise, Sora effortlessly counters her cheat card with counting nabs a perfect 21 at the right moment, and Steph's entire world collapses. But no such luck. Later, they head out with Steph dressed as a dog, but what Blank doesn't know is the look they gave her is the look of the war beasts. So when all the humans in the streets start running away from them, Steph breaks the news. And that's when Sora, our lewd virgin king, decides he's gonna conquer the war beast next. Because of his dream of an Eden filled with chicks and fluffy tails and ears and all the gloriousness. And Steph challenges them a bunch of times and almost loses, well, a lot of clothing. And she still hasn't figured out that Blank has really not been playing all day. Now Steph isn't just embarrassed, she's hurt. She thought they were slacking off, but Sora calmly drops the bomb. They've been burying themselves in books, because books are their only weapons in this cruel world. He explains that humanity's greatest weapon isn't magic or brute force, it's knowledge. And that's when Steph realizes that they don't even have a library. Their last one was lost in a gambling match. But if humanity is going to survive, they need knowledge more than anything else. So they do the only logical thing available. They storm the library and challenge the Flugel, who won it from the former king. And when they step in, this Flugel named Jabril shows up, and they tell her point blank they're here to play a game with the library on the line. Sora bets his tab that he's got a lot of PDFs from Earth on it. And when Jabril realizes she can't read normal human language, she agrees. But not before they mess around with each other's bodies and our killing machine Jabril finally gets to blow off some of her, well, you know, stuff. Before the game starts, Jabril ups the challenge by betting herself. If they win, they own her. Now things are getting really interesting. They play a game called Materialization Shiritori, where whatever they call materializes, and the only way to lose is to run out of words that can materialize. Easy, right? Except Sora starts with hydrogen bomb, and boom, mushroom cloud Jabril's shield barely holds, and also Steph nearly loses her sanity by watching a nuclear explosion go off in what was supposed to be knowledge, you know, a library, because they needed that. And now a nuclear bomb has gone off. The match escalates even more, and Jabril casually summons horses and beaches, but Sora keeps ramping it up, first by getting really lewd with poor Steph and showing us some more glorious you-know-what, and then he gets even more serious by removing the atmosphere, the planet's crust, the lithosphere, even gravity. Now her smirk is gone. Reality hits when she tries to say a word, but notices her voice won't come out. However, she writes in the air and the game rule approves it. But as you expect, Blank sees even further than that, and the duo keeps stacking Calamity until they hit the overkill mode with Column Force, literally erasing electromagnetic charge. Atoms collapse, hypernova ensues, and kaboom, game over. So she's stunned but also thrilled. She's never been outplayed like this ever, and she acknowledges that the game was over after move 1 and admits defeat gracefully. She fesses up that she expected a flugel god complex, but not this level of strategic insanity. So she pledges allegiance and gives Sora and Sho access to the entire library and declares that she'll serve them. So now they basically just recruited a god killer as their librarian and bodyguard. I'm gonna say something a little bit controversial. I'm pretty sure she could have won against Blank. Now look, you have Jabril, who survived the War of the 16 Races, and on the other hand, we have Blank. Gamer is so freaking good, the god of play literally invited them over. So that says something. Now, she should have taken this more seriously. She had all the evidence needed to make the choice in front of her. The right choice. Sora later revealed they came from another world, and through their very, sexual examination, she found it to be true. Also, Sora was kind enough to inform them that he had over 40,000 books worth of knowledge that she's never had before. And this means in addition to all the knowledge that he had acquired in the game world, he still had enough knowledge that she knew nothing about. Armed with this, it seems a little self-defeating to choose a game that relied on making invisible, abstract concepts visible. She literally gave herself a handicap. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pick a game that we will play. One that would be more to our advantage. In the game world, humanity was always known for their knowledge. That was how they survived the world of ravaging beasts and monsters with magical powers and superpowers. And it means that this is the one game where humanity could have had a chance at beating her. But no one said she had to play fair. If we're gonna choose a game, we're gonna choose something that plays to our strengths. She's known as an angel of death for the amount of carnage that she brought about during the Great War. So with a game with her life on the line, she should have picked that one thing that has never failed her: strength. In her shoes, we're gonna choose a game of arm wrestling or weightlifting. Best of 3 rounds. There's no way that scrawny human beings will beat her in a physical arm wrestling game. Wing bang bam, thank you dude, and you are done. You win 3 matches, and also we get to keep our precious library all to ourselves. After gaining Jabril as an ally and unlocking the full contents of the Royal Library, Sora and Shiro gather every historical record of past matches between humanity and the Eastern Federation. But they find nothing, because although Jabril played a game against the Eastern Federation, she has no memory of what the game is. The Eastern Federation wins every game, and the loser has their memory wiped. So now Blank has to figure out what the game is and how to beat it. But what the Eastern Federation doesn't know is that Blank already has a pretty good idea. Jabril takes them on a little bit of a teleportation ride to the Federation's embassy, and when Sora returns, he's more depressed than ever. He can't figure out why, despite losing so many times, the former king kept on challenging the Eastern Federation till he challenged them 8 times and lost so much valuable land. When he berates Steph for her grandfather's folly, even Shiro thinks he's taken it a little bit too far. But after Steph leaves, he points out that he believes in the former king and tells them only one thing: the old king kept on challenging them for a reason. He has no proof, but he believes that the old king found a way to keep his memories and probably stopped challenging them after 8 challenges, because he already achieved the goal. He explains to Jabril that although he doesn't believe in humanity, he believes in humanity's potential. And that's why, despite what he said about the former king, he believes the old G was actually wise. Fortunately, Steph is in a corner hiding, and she hears him praise her grandfather. To show her support for his trust, Steph gives Sora her father's secret key. But what she doesn't know is what the key opens. Instead of going back to square one, Sora and Shiro point out they've already found what the key opens. They use the key and open a secret hole in the wall, and inside they find a new book filled with secrets of the Eastern Kingdom. Turns out the wise king only pledged not to share what he found for as long as he was alive. If anyone could find the info after his death, he hoped they would help humanity. Whew, talk about groundwork. Sora reels in admiration for the past king, because even from the grave, he just threw them the greatest alley-oop to bring down the Eastern Federation. Armed with the new info, Blank and company head to the embassy, and they're greeted by Mr. Eno. Sora arranged the meeting with a single wave over a very long distance, but this makes Steph wonder how Sora was able to see Mr. Eno while in his palace, because while the war beasts have phenomenal hearing and all that, Sora has nothing, just a normal human being. But what they don't know is that this was all a part of his elaborate plan to trap and beat the war beasts. Inside, they meet the war beast representative, Izuna Tan, a super cute war beast who is definitely younger than Sora and Shiro. But with Sora, everything is just a part of the game. They sit at a table, but instead of starting discussions, Sora tells Mr. Eno to figure out what he's thinking since he can read minds. To make matters worse, he challenges Mr. Eno to a game and decides that the prize will be, well, Izuna's panties. This makes Eno, who is her grandfather, very mad, and understandably so. And that's when Sora drops the bomb. He tells Eno to drop the act because he knows that the Mr. Eno, and by extensions, all the war beasts, don't have a sixth sense that allows them to read minds. Eno's just very good at cold reading and has the superhuman ability to hear other races' heartbeats. Now, with the fear of having his mind read out of the way, Sora goes on to stage 2. He challenges the war beasts to a battle between nations, with all of the Eastern Federation as the prize for the game. Together with Shiro as his assistants, they debunk all the myths surrounding the Eastern Federation and the war beasts for Jabril and Steph to bring him up to speed. And once they're done, they reveal that the secret game where the Eastern Federation has an absolute advantage because of their technological advancement is video games. Because everyone else is so far behind. Even when the elves managed to figure out what kind of game they were playing, they still weren't good enough to beat the war beasts because no one else knew enough about video games. They could cheat without being caught, and that's how they managed to stay on top for so long. But now they have an opponent who knows everything about games. Players that have never lost a game. So to stop the war beasts from finding an excuse to wiggle out of playing them, Sora ups the stakes by betting his race piece, a chess piece that's tied to all of humanity. And this means Blank just put up the life of everybody on the line. And with that kind of gamble, if the war beasts back out, everyone would know that what Blank has figured out about them is the truth. And that would be the end of their monopoly, so they agree to play. They ask for a few days to prepare. Back home, Sora gets restless, but Shiro is not prepared for what happens next. He picks her up and tells her that Blank always wins a game before it starts, but then says he's going to grab the last piece they need for victory, and after that he vanishes into thin air. That's not the worst part! In one moment, Blank's mastermind disappears, and with him, everyone's memory of him. Shiro wakes alone, frantic, believing this world has rewritten itself. They can't recall that Sora ever existed. Now this is the ultimate move in a meta game. Erase the players from the board entirely, but is it a failed hack by the war beast or Sora's own gambit? Jabril asks Shiro to play a game and to intentionally lose because she feels it would help Shiro feel better. All through the game, Shiro can feel her memories disappear. Just as she is about to lose, a silhouette of Sora shows up and holds her hand, stopping her from knocking over the final piece. And Shiro becomes convinced that Sora is real, and she puts on her detective cap and starts going through all the info again. Shiro doubles down on logic and she retraces every clue. The ghostly whispers in her mind, and Steph's tripping over Othello's pieces, Jabril's uncharacteristic guilt, fragile traces that only a genius mind could detect. And that's when she realizes they've had 2 days worth of memory removed from their minds. Now while Shiro chases shadows, we flash back to Sora locked in a half-world, with Kurami and Feel. Each disc isn't just a piece, it's a fragment of existence, memory, loyalty, even existence itself. Win and take 2 demands, lose and risk erasing. Except Sora isn't playing to win, he's playing to prove. He intentionally lets himself be erased from memory to make his opponents reveal themselves and expose the mechanics of this mind-wiping tech. Back in the present, Shiro finds those last 3 Othello pieces in Sora's room, the final anchors holding reality together. She places them, following Sora's design, enters checkmate, and resets reality. Boom! Sora returns at the moment Shiro proves his existence. With the game over, Sora locks down Kurami's trust by sharing memories with her and ruling out her possible betrayal. And his demands are simple. Both sides keep copies of memories, and he gains the right to alter Feels. No betrayal, just transparency. Okay, look, the stakes are so freaking high. Here's what we really should have done differently. Sure, our trust in Shiro should honestly never wane, but that's not the problem. The purpose of the game was to get Kurami to trust Shiro and release Feel to accompany him to the Eastern Federation. But we could have done the same thing without risking everything. That's why they should have picked any other game. It didn't matter what the game was. They are blank. Sora and Shiro are jointly the smartest mind in the game universe right now. There's no game they cannot win if they work together. So all they had to do was pick a different type of game, right? And just just have the prize being, after they win, is that Kurami would see his memories and understand that he's not working with anyone. And he would also be able to see her memories, and their trust would then be established from that point onwards. We don't have to worry about risking such an elaborate plot to achieve the same goal. After regaining consciousness from a mysterious disappearance, Sora shocks everyone by inviting Kurami Phil into their group. The same Kurami who tried previously to overthrow the crown, and the same Phil who's been backing her from the shadows. This is not a peace treaty, it's a psychological play. Sora wants everyone to reveal their cards before they get dealt, so he demands they all introduce themselves properly. Kurami only says her name, but Sora fills in the rest for her, down to her memories and feelings. He's not flexing, he's testing. Trust in blank doesn't come from secrecy, it comes from openness, even when it hurts. Phil, on the other hand, is cold. She sees Sora as a human manipulating a young girl, and doesn't hide her disgust. But the real source of tension? Jibril. As a Flugel, she once annihilated an entire elven city during the Great War. So you can't really blame Phil for hating on her, and these aren't teammates. They're a powder cake of trauma, suspicion, and unresolved conflict, which is exactly why Sora drags all of them into a bath together. Yep, that's right, a co-ed bathhouse scene. Not for fan service, that was sarcasm, but for strategy. Sora understands one truth: if you can't trust each other naked, you definitely can't trust each other in the battlefield. Kurami panics, Phil distances herself, and Jibril quietly just dominates the space. It's super awkward and completely necessary. Again, sarcasm. With the awkwardness out of the way, Sora finally challenges the Eastern Federation. But this isn't just about winning. He bets everything, including the humanity race peace itself. The moment he places that wager, the game becomes public. No backroom politics, no secret negotiations. Everything will unfold under the eyes of the world. It's a genius move because it prevents the war beasts from cheating, and it rallies the citizens under one banner. However, the association doesn't know that Sora has even more up his sleeve. When they're alone, he asks Jibril to make the room soundproof and casts a spell on Steph. What does it do? Well, you'll have to wait and find out. Now, Sora, though, isn't done playing mind games. Before they enter the game pods, Sora sows one last seed that will help them win the game. He asks Izuna, when was the last time you enjoyed a game? Now, Izuna, trained for battle, is being treated like a player. Not a weapon, not a soldier, but someone meant to have fun. And that idea shakes her more than anything else. The game is set, the player's chosen. Sora, Shiro, Stephanie, and Jibril will face Izuna in a virtual reality, a match of unknown rules and unknown terrain. And it's a hyper-realistic simulation modeled after modern Tokyo. For everyone else, that's not gonna matter. But for Sora and Shiro, two shut-ins who's never really stepped into real city and like real life, it's their worst nightmare. The moment they materialize in the digital world, surrounded by buildings, open skies, and vast empty streets, they freeze. They can't think. It's not a fear of losing the game, it's agoraphobia. And just like that, the unbeatable blank is mentally paralyzed. Now, things are not looking good, but that's when Mr. Eno points out that although it looks real, they're in a game simulation. And as soon as our boy hears this, he snaps out of it and he's ready to throw down. With blank back in place, Eno explains the rules of the game. It's a basic game of hide and seek, and they're using a love gun. Whoever gets hit by the love gun becomes the slave of the person that shot. And that's all that Sora needed. After testing a few theories on himself and his teammates, Sora finally reveals he's ready to win the game. Before getting fully serious, he aims at an NPC's panties because he needs all the love that he can get, but the NPC disappears after the panties dissolve. But as we know, he never does nothing for nothing. Okay, it's great things worked out for Sora and Shiro in this bit, but honestly, everyone would have been screwed if they couldn't make it work. What Sora and Shiro are facing is agoraphobia, an anxiety disorder that cripples its victim with fear of situations where escape might be difficult or where help is unavoidable. And it often leads to avoidance of public places and situations. And we already know that our faves have this problem, and right here at the very beginning of the anime, they spent almost all of their time away from the eye of the public. The one time they were behind two different doors, they became totally unrecognizable. Considering that Steph was the only person with them then, it's safe to say that only Steph knows about this problem. However, we couldn't just stop at just letting our team know the problem. But if we're betting all of humanity's life on this, we should at least do that level of disclosure. Except we're not gonna just let our team know the problem, we have to prepare a fix. Blank prides themselves on being able to win any game before it even begins. They're so good that they plan for every possible scenario and come up with multiple counters that make their wins look easy. That's what they should have done here, considering the kind of opponent they were facing. Blank should have prepared themselves for any kind of eventuality, including one where they could actually face a real-life Tokyo scene like they did in the game. One easy way in which they could have done this was by getting help from the elves. Elves are known for their wide range of magic, but what if the magic was not used for the mere parlor tricks we've seen so far? We could use the magic to alter Sora and Shiro's memory into convincing them they're not afraid of the public eye. They were able to deliver a speech in front of everyone. This means they can handle the streets of Tokyo with just a little encouragement and some magic blindsiding, even if it is only a temporary buff. Sora could have asked Phil to give them a courage pill, so to speak, and help help them with the game. That way they could have functioned at optimum capacity from the beginning and not be in the pickle they are in now. While Sora is having the time of his life trying to get NPCs naked, Izuna is reflecting on what he said before they entered the pod, and she can't figure out how any of this is supposed to be fun. But she's now been caught in Sora's psychological trap. Izuna goes to a secluded area and listens to the sound of feet moving. She realizes that it's Shiro, and she decides to get rid of her main enemy once and for all. She takes a shot that even John Wick would be stunned at because she fires through a window past a corner and straight at Shiro. However, she misses. She shoots again, and Shiro uses mathematical precision to shoot a bullet that throws off Izuna's shot every time. Sora watches Shiro, feeling super proud that his baby sister is the greatest marksman ever, and while he watches from a safe distance, he doesn't realize though things are about to change. Izuna manages to avoid Shiro by jumping out of the building, but she has no idea that she's been misled. When she gets out, she comes face to face with a flying Jabril. She shoots, Izuna manages to dodge, and far away from the action, Sora steadies his hand and shoots at Izuna. Despite still not knowing where he is or that he was targeting her, she dodges. How the frick did she do that? Now obviously it only takes our boy a minute to realize she's cheating. Uncle Ino on the outside has found a way to help her. They go into hiding to give Shiro time to figure out a solution for them, and Izuna is on the hunt. She passes a mirror and notices that for the first time in her gaming career, she's smiling. It takes them only a minute to figure it out. Back in their hideout, Shiro finishes her equation, but instead of writing the answer, she leaves the space empty. Before Sora can ask what she figured out, Izuna snipes her down. Now Sora has to run away from history's greatest marksman ever. He figures out that Shiro left the space empty because the answer is blank, as in both of them. So he sends Jabril to keep Izuna distracted while he faces off against Shiro. However, when Sora notices that Shiro is not chasing him like she would, he realizes something is off. Still, he heads to the rooftop and does the one thing she would not expect, running in a straight line when she shoots at him. He shoots her and brings her back to her senses. And as they're falling off a building, Ino gives Izuna the heads up and she comes to join the party in the air. She even brings Jabril with her, but it was all part of Blank's calculation. Turns out Izuna never hit Shiro with her bullet. Shiro was only acting. She shoots point blank and the battle should be over. But before the bullet hits, she goes berserk, and the aura around Izuna from her excited mode blows the bullet away. And berserk mode gives her ability to do even more crazy things. She performs a double jump and throws Blank's shot off target again. Shiro and Sora crash into the ground and Izuna chases after them. Despite their perfect sync, calculation, and shot, she headshots both of them and Blank finally falls to the ground and Ino's like, whew, thank God. And the berserk mode wears out. But just before she can celebrate her victory, someone shoots her from behind and Mr. Ino's smile of joy turns into utter despair as Steph bursts onto the scene, the savior of humanity. Her eyes are covered and she is riding on an NPC. And it turns out everything, including getting shot by Izuna, was a part of Blank's calculation. They set Steph on a collision course and gave her specific instructions. By having her ride on an NPC's back, even Ino, who was cheating from outside the game, couldn't detect her because NPCs have no presence. And Mr. Ino finally realizes the game was over before it even began. Sora gets Ino to confirm that the victory has been won by Elkia, and then he officially welcomes Izuna to the League of Gamers because she finally enjoyed a game. After a match, they all indulge Sora's excesses by joining for a joint bath in a pool. What is it with guys and pools? And that's when this mysterious lady called the Shrine Priestess shows up, but before she can do any funny business, she realizes that the master of true groundwork has struck again. A Fluja warship shows up in the horizon, and Phil has also informed her race about the nature of the game. With every piece moving in sync, even the Shrine Priestess realizes that she's been bested, but she's not going down without a fight. So Sora challenges her to a simple coin toss. Despite her calculations, Sora finds a way to make both of them win by making sure the coin neither falls on heads or tails. Don't ask me how, he's cool like that. He gives the Eastern Federation back their land in exchange for the Federation becoming part of Elkia. After that, our boy explains a bit of his thought process, and both Ino and the priestess are terrified by just how far into the future our guy was thinking. He tells them that his goal is still the same: beat Tet, the god of this world. And meanwhile, Tet watches them from the sky, excited that things are finally beginning to move for once.